Imagine you are standing in a crowded room full of people who are all cheering for you. Every person there is offering you a compliment or a warm smile that makes you feel seen. But your eyes are constantly searching for the one person in the corner who is looking at their phone and ignoring you completely. This single person has decided to minimize your presence as if you don't even exist. Their cold indifference feels like a sharp needle pricking at your skin, while everyone else's praise feels like background noise. And you find yourself wondering why this one stranger has so much power over your internal peace. You go home and try to sleep, but the only face you see behind your eyelids is that person who looked right through you. You replay the moment over and over again, trying to figure out what you did wrong to deserve that reaction. And suddenly, the 100 people who loved you are forgotten because one person chose to look away. Today, we are going to dive deep into the strange and often painful mechanics of the human brain. We will explore why we are biologically wired to obsess over the people who make us feel small. And I will show you exactly how to break this cycle so you can reclaim your self-worth from those who don't deserve it. To understand this phenomenon, we have to travel back thousands of years to when our ancestors lived in small tribal groups. Back then, being liked by the group wasn't just a matter of ego or vanity. It was actually a strict requirement for physical survival in a dangerous world. If a member of the tribe began to minimize you or exclude you from the social circle, it was a literal death sentence because you couldn't hunt or protect yourself against predators alone. So your brain developed a hypersensitive alarm system to detect any sign of social rejection. When someone minimizes you today by ignoring your texts or talking over you in a meeting, that ancient alarm system in your brain goes off at full volume. It doesn't realize that you are safe in a modern apartment with food in the fridge. It thinks you are about to be exiled into the wilderness to starve. This is why the pain of being minimized feels so physical and so urgent in your chest. Your amygdala is screaming at you to fix the relationship at any cost, and it forces you to obsess over that person until you feel like you have solved the problem of their indifference. Think about a time when you were dating someone who suddenly became distant and cold. They started giving you short answers and stopped asking about your day as if you were a burden. And instead of walking away, you found yourself trying 10 times harder to please them. Psychologists call this an intermittent reinforcement trap, where the lack of attention becomes a vacuum that you desperately try to fill. Your brain becomes addicted to the hope that they might finally give you a crumb of validation. And that tiny crumb feels more rewarding than a whole cake from someone who is always nice to you. It is a cruel trick of dopamine where the uncertainty of a person's affection makes them more valuable in your mind. You start to view their validation as a prize to be won rather than a basic human courtesy. And you begin to minimize your own needs just to fit into the small space they have left for you. Consider the story of Sarah, who was a high-achieving marketing executive with a boss who never acknowledged her hard work. She would stay late every night and produce brilliant reports, only for her boss to grunt and look at his watch. And Sarah found herself thinking about her boss's approval more than her own husband's love. Her husband told her she was amazing every single day, but those words felt cheap because they were guaranteed. Whereas her boss's silence felt like a mountain she was obsessed with climbing. She was trapped in a psychological loop where she equated difficult to please with high value. We often obsess over those who minimize us because we are trying to use them as a mirror to see ourselves. We think that if we can finally win over the person who looks down on us, it will prove once and for all that we are actually worthy and important. But the tragedy of this logic is that you are asking a person who is blind to your value to tell you how much you are worth. It is like asking a person who doesn't speak your language to write a review of your favorite book. They simply do not have the capacity to give you what you are looking for. When someone minimizes you, it is usually a reflection of their own internal insecurities or their need for power. They feel bigger by making you feel smaller, and they use silence or condescension as a tool to maintain control. And your obsession is exactly what feeds their ego and keeps the dynamic alive. Your brain hates unfinished business, and an unresolved social rejection feels like a puzzle that is missing a piece. You keep turning the situation over in your mind, trying to find the missing logic that explains why they treated you that way. But often there is no logic other than the fact that they are a hurt person hurting others. We also have to talk about the Zeigarnik Effect, which is a psychological phenomenon where our brains remember uncompleted tasks much better than completed ones. A healthy relationship where you are respected feels complete and settled, so your brain doesn't need to work on it constantly. But a relationship where you are minimized feels like a jagged edge that needs to be smoothed out. You become a mental detective searching for clues in their body language or their tone of voice. You analyze every word they said 3 weeks ago to see if you missed a hidden meaning. And this constant mental activity creates a false sense of intimacy with a person who isn't even thinking about you. The more time you spend thinking about them, the more real estate they take up in your subconscious mind. Eventually, you start to lose track of who you are outside of your efforts to be noticed by them. And your hobbies and passions begin to fade away as you focus entirely on this one-sided emotional battle. To break free from this obsession, you must first recognize that your brain is lying to you about the importance of this person. They are not a boss-level challenge that you need to defeat to level up in life. They are simply a person with a limited perspective who is currently taking up too much of your energy. You need to practice a technique called radical acceptance, where you allow the person to be wrong about you without trying to correct them. You accept that they might always see you as less than, and you realize that their opinion doesn't change the molecular structure of who you are. Imagine you are a bar of solid gold, but someone insists on treating you like a common rock. Their insistence doesn't turn you into a rock, but it does make them a very poor judge of minerals, and you wouldn't spend your whole life trying to convince a blind person that the sky is blue. Start by intentionally shifting your focus back to the easy people in your life who already appreciate you. These are the people whose texts you might have been ignoring while you were busy chasing the person who ignores you. And give them the high-quality attention that you have been wasting on your minimizer. Every time your mind wanders back to the person who made you feel small, you must gently pull it back like a leash on a puppy. Tell yourself, that thought is not productive and it does not serve my happiness, and then engage in a physical task like washing dishes or going for a brisk walk. You must also look at your childhood to see if this pattern of chasing the unobtainable person feels familiar to you. Often we obsess over minimizers because they remind us of a parent or a sibling whose love we had to earn. And we are unconsciously trying to rewrite our past by winning a battle in the present. Healing this part of yourself requires you to become your own source of validation, so you don't need it from outside sources. When you truly know your own value, a person minimizing you feels less like a tragedy and more like a mild annoyance, and you begin to find indifference toward them rather than obsession. The ultimate revenge against someone who minimizes you is not to win them over or to make them regret losing you. The ultimate victory is to reach a point where you genuinely do not care whether they notice you or not, because your internal world is so full and vibrant that their silence has no room to echo. Remember that your brain is a powerful tool that is trying to protect you, but it is using an outdated manual. It thinks the minimizer is a threat to your survival, when they are really just a distraction from your true potential. And you have the power to close that tab in your mental browser and start a new chapter. As you move forward from today, I want you to make a list of the 3 people who make you feel the most seen and heard. Commit to spending more time with them this week than you spend thinking about anyone who has ever made you feel small. And watch how your energy and your confidence begin to shift almost overnight. You are not a puzzle to be solved by someone else's approval, and you are certainly not a secondary character in your own life story. You are the protagonist, and you get to decide who is worthy of a speaking role in your mind. So stop giving the villains and the extras so much screen time. Thank you for spending this time with me to understand the inner workings of your mind and your heart. I hope this deep dive into the psychology of obsession has given you the clarity you need to walk away from the people who diminish your light. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video where we will continue to unlock the secrets of a happier life. Stay curious about yourself and remember that you are far more capable than your brain sometimes leads you to believe. Keep focusing on your growth and your joy, because that is where your true power lies. And I will see you very soon.